Well, the Monday morning markets are a little bit on the quiet side here. I'm Marlin Bohling with you. Let's take a look at corn and see what's going on so far this morning. Okay, on the big board, March penny and a quarter lower. We're at 6.52 3/4, so not doing much of anything. December now up a quarter of a cent at 5.91 1/4. Very, very quiet in the corn. Now let's take a look at soybeans. And not much going on here either. Now, the January, of course, is in delivery mode. March, down a penny and 3/4. Whoops, now it's down 2.5 at 14.90 per bushel. So we're still hovering within about 2 cents of our low of the morning trade here. And I want to check out the November new crop contract here. On soybeans, November is now down 5 1/4. We're at 13.92 per bushel. Let's go ahead and move on to our Chicago wheat. And in Chicago, you have the March contract 8 cents higher now at 7.51 1/2. Well, that's interesting. It had been down to 7.40 3/4, and now all of a sudden we're tacking on about 11 cents. So wheat starting to find a little bit of strength here. Let's go ahead and check out the Kansas City market here so far today. And on the March, we're 4.5 higher at 8.36 1/2, and July now 5 1/2 higher. And it's back up to 8.29 1/4 here this morning. In Minneapolis wheat, you have the March contract 5 1/2 higher. We're at 9.07 1/4. And checking the March cotton market today, we are up 116 points. Look at that. 86.84 per pound right now. Even new crop December up 85 points at 83.48. Well, a little bit of sign of life in the wheat market. We have Chris Swift here in the studio. He's with Swift Trading. Is based in Nashville, and let's talk about this a little bit. A little unusual to see the wheat taking charge for a change. How come?
It is, and I'm not real sure. Maybe some of it the weather. Still, they haven't gotten a lot of the moisture content that they need there in the Midwest to get the germination going really well on that wheat. And we've kind of heard rumors of more Russian wheat selling that want to increase their exports, and so I'm not real sure that much of anything's happening. It seemed like kind of resumed its downtrend last week, and this might be just a little bit of a reversal of it.
All right, so let's look at the dollar value too. Right now on the big board, the U.S. dollar index value has been getting weak in the knees. Chris, I'm going to call it 800 lower at 102.865. Do you see more weakness in the value of the U.S. dollar, or do you think this is more of a one-off?
I think significantly more.
Really?
We saw a correction high on Friday, closed on the low of the day, and got follow through today that takes out, or it equals previous lows that we saw about 6 weeks ago. Everything seemingly that the current administration is doing is going to weaken the dollar even further. I don't see much chance of getting it to rally right now.
On the other hand, you take a look at the crude oil market today. Look at this, Chris. $2.44 higher on February crude, 76.21. Now, it's got to have some kind of impact here on investment money coming into ags.
Probably does, but you know, we hear that China wants to come back open again. We understand that they will probably get some stimulation from their government, as well as just the normal act of doing business again. They're going to see some really strong pulls on commodities going forward, especially in the first and second quarter of this year. So even though the U.S. may not be as strong as what some people think to have a bout of inflation, I think China could easily promote a bout of inflation.
Okay, and of course, a lot of people may be heading for the sidelines because we have some big USDA reports coming out later on this week.
Right.
And January does tend to be one of the bigger sets of data coming out. So just be prepared for that. That's Thursday, right?
Yes, believe so.
On the 12th. Yeah. Okay, we'll take a break right here and we'll come back and we'll see how the livestock trade is faring so far. Remember, we had kind of a week open. We'll examine when we come back. Well, we're back talking with the one and only Chris Swift of Swift Trading. He's based in Nashville, and he rejoins us right now. Overall, I wanted to ask you about the movement that we saw take place in the cash cattle market last week. Everybody wonders, how long can they keep this run up? I mean, they continue to be, steady to maybe firmer?
Right.
Now we're in a new calendar year
and
a new month and everything, but can they still continue to forge ahead?
I think so. Boxes are still pushing higher too. So we saw the box level back up above 280. Clearly our weights have declined and we've got more heifers on feed now. So that'll continually keep our weights a little bit lower than this past year. And the big issue is going to be cow slaughter. If we ever see any kind of reductions in the cow slaughter, most likely we start to see a significant reduction in beef production.
But doesn't that normally happen in January or not?
You start to see some. We noticed that cutter and slaughter cows prices have been up significantly. So I think we're starting to see fewer of them. And as soon as you start curtailing them from the expansion, from the liquidation side of it, then that's when everybody starts holding them back, maybe hold back a few heifers. But there's a lot of questions on revenue streams and how we're going to meet those revenue streams if we're holding back inventory.
Now, what was the deal, the weekly export sales that we had on beef and pork last week? Now, they came out a day later than normal.
Right.
But, man, they were quite pathetic on the beef, weren't they?
They were.
Was that just because we came over the end of the year and there was a lot of adjustment, or what was the deal?
I'm not real sure. I didn't see any kind of details in there that would say, oh, it was specifically this or that. So honestly, I don't know why, but I do know that they were quite a bit lower, and we're expecting a little bit better as we push forward through the first quarter.
I didn't really see China in there as an active buyer on the beef either.
And probably not going to. Brazil is where they get the majority of their beef products from, and although the U.S. has a niche market there, I don't really see it growing anytime soon. But again, as China comes out of the COVID lockdowns, we see more economic movement in that area, then it could pick up. So it doesn't have to pick up much when you talk about China pulling on things.
Now, you kind of swerved into another topic, and I hadn't thought about going there, but you mentioned Brazil, and there's so much chaos going on there now. And I hear the farmer protests are picking up again with roadblocks and that sort of thing. And of course, they're a big source for soybeans
and cattle, huge.
And beef. So do you think that is kind of a problem out there lurking in the wings?
It always is. Anytime you get political unrest, you really don't know which direction that the economy can turn. We've seen many economies just completely turn south and not ever come back. We lost them as trading partners and may not get them back as trading partners anytime soon. So how it impacts Brazil being the largest beef exporter that there is in the world, it's going to be interesting to see how they come about with this.
Well, it is. There's a lot riding on the line here. All right, let's take a look at our current prices then with our quotes provided by Bar Chart. And on the live cattle board right now, hey, we have turned higher, Chris. We have February now up 85 at 157.62. Well, gosh, that's $1 and a dime off of our low from a little bit ago. So things have turned around nicely here. April live cattle up 65 at 161.32. And what's more interesting is the fact the nearbys are leading the charge. On the feeders, they have turned higher. January up 27. Look at March up a dime at 185.75. While that's not that impressive, it is 60 cents off of its low from about a half an hour ago. And on lean hogs here today, you have the February now half a dollar higher at 80.77 per hundredweight. And now we're within a dime of our high of the day. April up 95, and May and June are both over 90 cents higher as well. So things turning around. Last time we checked, everything was lower on the livestock trade. Now everything's higher.
Yeah.
Maybe you should stick around.
Good employment data last week. Remember that?
That's right.
2 days of really good, solid employment data. So it should be a boost to everything.
We'll take anything we can get. All righty, Chris Swift of Swift Trading with us here. He is from Nashville. Janet, back to you.